Hello everyone, and welcome back to the layout. Today we have a bit of a different kind of new product demo video, review, whatever you want to call it today. Today we're actually going to compare two AC4400s. On our left here we have our Athearn Genesis. These just came out recently. They're part of the Genesis 2.0 line. And on the right we have a Scaletrains rivet counter model. So between the two of these, the Athearn model is a DCC ready model, and the Scaletrains model is equipped with ESU loc sound. Now, before we get too far into this here, I want to go ahead and say that the reason that the Athearn model is DCC ready is because I'm an ESU guy, and I'm not going to buy a locomotive with a decoder that I'm just going to take out of it as soon as I finish making a video of it to put my preferred sound setup in. So at the end of the day, I want to compare these just based on looks, details, all that fun stuff, and see which one really is better, if one is better, or are these pretty much exactly the same thing, and, you know, how close are they really? So sit back, relax, and enjoy as we take a bit of a dive into a battle between two manufacturers, AC4400s. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll start off with unboxing our Athearn AC4400 here. Now Athearn, these boxes tend to ship with this outer deal here that goes over top of the box. I kind of like these because they keep the box from getting beat up at all. But otherwise, this should be a pretty typical unboxing here for Athearn. We've got our outer piece here. And now we're in here, we have, I think this is the warranty card. Oh yeah, warranty card. Our exploded parts diagram here, which this is kind of neat just to be able to look at all the different parts and pieces here. And then too, if you need a spare part, you can order it from Athearn. Of course, subscribe to the Athearn newsletter. And if you purchased a DCC and sound model, that would be in with the quick start guide or whatever. Got our little piece of foam here. Let's start off with the what spare parts do we get here? Looks like we've got some lift ring pieces here, and then some antennas for PTC and some little extra bearing cap pieces. So I always like to see what extra free stuff they throw in here, extra little bits and pieces. It's always good to have those. All you modern guys will like the PTC antennas being included. So go ahead and move that out of the way. And our usual clamshell deal here from Athearn, and pretty much everybody except Atlas at this point. This whole outer sleeve piece. And then the end comes apart like so. And there goes the piece of plastic that I'm sure everybody always has go flying every time they open a model. Oh, looks like Athearn's using the truck pieces here to stabilize these now. And of course our little foam bits for the handrails here. These are always fun to get out without knocking a handrail loose. But there we have it. Here it is right out of the box, our Athearn unit. And I'll go ahead and do the same with the Scaletrains unit, and we'll do a little quick comparison on packaging here. Alright, so now for our Scaletrains unboxing here. Now, as far as the actual boxes themselves, lengthwise, the Athearn and Scaletrains boxes are about the same, but widthwise, I've noticed here the Scaletrains box is just a little bit wider. Not a lot, but a little bit here. And of course, our typical book here from Scaletrains with all of your important information, you know, your lubrication and such here, operational tips, you know, our quick start guide with all of our functions, etc. for our decoder. That's pretty snazzy there. I like that, you know. But you know, your typical book deal. Of course, the foam piece, same as Athearn. And of course, we get to pull our model out now. Now, Scaletrains always puts their little extra bits right up here, and it looks like we got 2 extra bearing caps and an extra step. Or is that a step that fell off of this? Might be a step that fell off of this from the first time I opened this up way back when I got it. But pretty much the same kind of jive that the Athearn unit had here. Same kind of foam handrail deal. And of course, Scaletrains, these little truck pieces always seem to stay stuck to the trucks whenever you pull them out, I've noticed. So we go ahead and clean this up, and we'll start taking our look at everything here and kind of dissecting these and seeing what differences we can find and what similarities we can find here. Alright, so first up is our Athearn Genesis unit here, and what I want to do here is just kind of do a quick spin around and look at everything and see if I notice anything, any missing parts, anything out of the ordinary that's not right here. Just, you know, for documentation's sake, I'd like to see what, if anything's not there that should be there before we dive too far into this here. That way we can get that kind of nonsense out of the way right out the gate here. And just from our initial look here, I don't see anything missing or broken. Seems pretty good looking here for our Athearn Genesis unit. Let me go ahead and hold on a minute here. We got a little handrail popped out of where it should be. Okay, well, got that. I mean, looks like this handrail's a little bit wavy here, but other than that, everything looks pretty good. Let me swap over to our Scaletrains unit for our first inspection here. Alright, now for our Scaletrains unit. Again, I'm just looking for anything that's wrong, broken, damaged, any of that stuff here. So I got a little paint chip here on my coupler cut bar there. And then over here, you guys probably can see that there's a missing step right there. It looks like we got a missing step. I get that to focus. Come on, camera, focus. There we go. Got a missing step down here on this end. Now that's a problem because I've only found 1 step loose in the box, so I'll have to look around for that a little bit more and see what the deal is there. But other than that, I'm not seeing anything messed up or broken, so that's decent. Let's go ahead and let's start our side-by-side look at these units. Alright, so we have our Scaletrains here on the left and our Athearn unit here on the right. And just looking right here at the front end here, the first thing I'm going to note here is that the Athearn unit comes with these cheesy, annoying plastic McHenry couplers that they've been putting on everything forever that I hate. That'll have to get swapped out for KDs. And Scaletrains has their own coupler deal, which I don't know how I feel about. They look pretty good. I haven't had any issues with them breaking, pulling a train or anything, but I have had some broken before, so Not quite sure, you know, how I feel about them, but either way. Other than that, the front ends look very, very similar. I would say the Athearn unit has a little bit of a darker yellow to it. I'm not sure if the camera's really going to show that well, whereas the Scaletrains is more of a lighter yellow. They both, again, I don't know how well the camera will show it, but the back handrail here and the front handrail are both like two different shades of yellow. Like this is a little bit of a lighter yellow than this, and it's the same on both of them. I notice here it's the Genesis one has the same exact thing, but otherwise they both got the MU hoses and all the fun stuff up there. Ditch lights look pretty good on both of them. I believe these both have walkway lights that work as well. And both the cabs look pretty good. Be curious, I'll have to look at the parts diagrams here to see if these doors are separate pieces and can be opened or not. But other than that, they look very, very good right here from the front end. Let's go ahead and turn it to the side here and see how I'm not sure how this is going to work out here. But maybe we'll do it bit by bit here with these, try to get them to where we can look at both of them at the same time. But just kind of looking at the front ends here and comparing, I believe the Athearn is supposed to be like a later 90s and the Scaletrains is as delivered. As you guys can see, we have a little loose handrail because that's, you know, way she goes. But overall, the tinted cab windows look good on both of them, and the decals are pretty good. I would say the Scaletrains ones look a little bit more crisp if I'm comparing. This here looks kind of blurry and blobby, but this isn't really that much better. They both kind of have that going on. Obviously, I'll give point to Scaletrains for their painted wheels here, because those always look good. And, of course, the 17 has this little GPS dome thing here on the top. Let's see what else I can notice here. As far as like looking all the way down the sides of the units here, they look very similar. I would say the Scaletrains has a little bit more like crisp seam here. You guys can kind of see these panels here. I'd say the ones on our Scaletrains model are a little bit more pronounced. Same with kind of like this X up here, which isn't going to show up very well on the one here. But otherwise, it looks like the Athearn has a little bit of a taller exhaust stack versus the Scaletrains has a shorter one. The plows look pretty comparable. I think the big win for Athearn here I'm going to give them is back here when we take a look at this chain going down to our truck here for a brake. The Athearn one is a real chain. The Scaletrains one's a plastic molded one, so I'll give points to Athearn there. That looks really nice. Really, really nice. And, of course, our see-through radiator sections back here in the back. Our Athearn one here, you can't really see through too well. Can't really see anything through that. And the Scaletrains one, oh yeah, you guys can see right through there. So that's a good, really good example there. Bring the Athearn one back up here. I mean, you can't see it all through that, so that's kind of a shame. Go ahead and bring this back and take a look at the back end of these. And it looks like the Scaletrains model has a little bit bigger CSX logo. That's not going to really show up too well, but looks like it's a hair bigger maybe. Maybe I'm just seeing things, not totally sure. Overall, though, the backs of these look pretty dang similar, and probably going to have a similar deal down this side as well. Again, our Athearn one, we can't see anything through our fan or radiator grills, whereas our Scaletrains one, we could see through a good bit. Comparing, again, right up here, these I can just barely see through on the Athearn model, whereas again our Scaletrains one, you guys can see that through on the camera there, so that's a pretty good indication there to our differences. It looks like our Scaletrains one has a few more decals down here on the side than our Athearn ones, but As I mentioned, I'm not really going to nitpick the little stuff like that because I believe the Athearn one was going for a different era. Of course, last but not least, I'll set up the camera so we can take a look at the top here. Alright, so looking from the top down here on our right hand side, this is our Scaletrains model, and this of course is our Athearn here on the left. And just upon first look here, you guys kind of see the Scaletrains model has this like treaded top here, which looks really good. And I don't know if it'll show up or not, but here on this walkway area, the Athearn model is just painted all the same color blue, whereas the Scaletrains, it looks like they did like two different colors of paint. I don't know if that'll show or not. There we go. You guys can see that edge there. Just that fine detail there with that. And if you look up here on the roof, you can see a similar kind of thing where it's just stripped down the middle. And it's on both of them, which I'll give Athearn credit for there. Now moving down here towards our back end, see two different styles of hoods there with a little bit different exhaust stacks. Our Scaletrains one has a hole all the way down and through into the interior, and our Athearn one, it does not. Let me see if I can get that in the camera frame here. Their Scaletrains might just poke right on down in there, and Athearn you cannot. And here we have our two radiator sections. Now, you guys are looking at this, the Scaletrains one, again, the detail's a lot finer on that etched metal than the Athearn one. But I will say they both really look good, especially compared to like the old Atlas Dash 8s. These really look nice with that etched metal. So let's go ahead and let's look at some of the more important things, like how much they weigh and all that fun jazz here. All right, now it's worth noting here very quickly that my Athearn model is a DCC ready model, which means that it's probably got a weight in here in place of the speaker. When we get to our teardown part, if it's easy to get the weight out, I'll take it out and tell you guys what the weight weighs where the speaker's at, but that way we could get a little better reading here. But straight out of the box, DCC ready, 22.8 ounces. That's a pretty hefty unit there. That's our Athearn. And then our Scaletrains here. This is DCC and the issue loc sound. 22.6. Let's go ahead and let's check our coupler height next. All right, so first up, we're going to check our Athearn unit here at this wonderful McHenry coupler. We're going to hook it up there, and that looks pretty much dead on the money. Right perfect, so that's a nice start there for the old Athearn. Now let's go ahead and try our rear. Our rear one appears to be a little bit lowish. That might just be some of the slop in that coupler. Try doing that again here. It seems like this rear coupler's got a little bit of a sag to it. But overall, it's pretty decent. Next up, we'll bring our Scaletrains unit into the picture here. Let's give it a go here and see what it does. See, that looks a little bit on the low side to me there. So Scaletrains is a little bit low on the front. That's a bit of a bummer. And it's a little bit low in the rear as well. Interesting. Very interesting. So Athearn pretty much on the ball. Scaletrains a little bit off a little bit. All right, now for the sake of people arguing about it here, here's the headlights on both units and ditch lights. As you guys can tell, the Genesis units are a little bit dimmer. I think that has to do with it being in DC mode. But overall, they both look pretty good. Of course, the Scaletrains one's going to look better because of decoders in it, but I feel like the Athearn one will really look good if you put a decoder in it and run it. So overall, not bad. They have pretty similar lighting functions as far as the walkway lights and the ground lights and all that, number boards and stuff. So pretty comparable between these two units. All right, so now we're going to do a quick, just see how it runs, just a back and forth, see how the motor sounds like, etc. here with our Athearn unit. Obviously, with it being DC, it's not going to sound the best, but I want to hear if it's got any gear noise or anything out of the ordinary that might be a problem. So let's just see how this does right out of the box without a decoder and see what we got here. And very quiet. I don't hear any gear noise or anything funky going on here. It seems to just be your usual DC noise, so to speak. Very smooth, very good. I like it. Definitely good. All right, now it's our Scaletrains unit. Here's Chance. So as you guys can tell, it's going to be a little bit quieter because it doesn't have the DC noise going on in the background. But let's go ahead and let's just see how it does here. Very quiet. Oh, very, very quiet. I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's head over to the workbench and do my favorite part, where I try to take the shell off these and see what the inside looks like and give you kind of my final thoughts on them as I do that. All right, so first up here is our Athearn Genesis model on our how hard is it to get the shell off project here. And we're going to start with our obvious thing. We're going to take our couplers and coupler pockets out here. Now, I could, read the directions and actually see how this all comes apart, but, yeah, that stuff's overrated. I'd rather treat this like any other model and just try to take it apart and see where we get. That's, I think most of you are probably the same way. You don't want to be fumbling through directions trying to find magic hidden screws and such just to get a dang shell off a model. So let's go ahead and we'll start off with these couplers and see where we go from there. Now, I know some of you are probably wondering, well, why in the world in a review are you taking a model apart? And the reason I do that is because in the case of like this Athearn model here, I'm going to end up adding DCC and ESU loc sound to this. And I'd like to know what kind of a headache I'm going to have doing that. How much room I have for a keep alive, etc. Because these, of course, do not have a keep alive. The Scaletrains models come with them factory, so point for Scaletrains on that one. And of course, it looks like our coupler box isn't going to want to come out now, because that's, the way it goes. There we go. See if we can get that to come apart there. There we go. And so we don't lose anything, I always just put this stuff back together here. Out of the way. Oop. I'm sure it'll be fun getting that back in when this is done, but alright, so we have our coupler screws off. And we still have no movement. Okay. Side note, you guys can probably see a little bit of through grills there. So now the next fun part with Athearns is they like to put screws in the bottoms of these, which I believe I see. It looks like I'm going to have to take my fuel tank off here, because of course we couldn't make this too simple here. Oh yeah, that's got a bunch of stuff I could break on it. That's nice. And 2 more screws. Here's one, and there's another down by the rear truck area. I always like when they put these like centered right in the middle of that truck spot there. That always is a fun screw to get in and out. But it's what they do. Now this should come apart. Let's see what we got here now. Looks like we got a little oil kind of thing going on there. Somebody got a little excited with the oil at the factory. That's always nice. Clean that off a little bit. Oh yeah, here we go. Now our shell's going to come off. Or is it? Yep, there it goes. Okay. Now taking a look inside our shell here, it looks like all of our lights are all mounted right in our ditch lights, right in our headlights. Looks like we've got our ground light hidden up underneath there as well. That looks nice. Athearn likes to use this contact pad deal, which I'm not, I'm neither here nor there about. It's not really something big to me. And of course, oh, why'd they have to do it? They had to pipe the light in on the end. I thought that rear headlight didn't look as sharp there. It also looks like we have a light going up into our cab. I wonder if this has a control stand light in it, maybe. Either way, it's enough gandering at our lighting. So here's where it gets interesting. As I mentioned, the Scaletrains model has a keep alive built in with our board. And as you can see here on this Athearn one, we have our 21 PID DCC ready board here with the little chip in there to operate it on DC. Now here is where you can remove this piece of weight right here and add a speaker should you decide to add DCC and sound to it. My concern is going to be take that weight out right there to put a speaker in, but I also have to fit a keep alive in there as well. So that might end up being a bit of an issue trying to get like a speaker in half of this and the keep alive in front of it. That's a good question as to whether that'll work out well or not. And another thing to note here, these grills are see-through here in the back now that I have the shell off, but with the speaker housing in there, it will obstruct those grills. So that's why the Scaletrains one we could see through, because of how they mount their speaker. But either way, not too bad looking. Your standard typical Genesis motor, and pretty typical Athearn Genesis stuff here. Nothing too surprising. Like I mentioned, the big question I would have is where would you end up putting a freaking keep alive in here? Because there's not a lot of room. So that's food for thought for you guys out there that want to upgrade one of these to ESU Loc sound with keep alive and all that. So let me put this back together, and then we'll take our shell off our Scaletrains unit and see what the difference is between the two. Oh, and before I forget here also, our front light is also separate of the shell. Kind of interesting to me. They go to all that trouble to put the ditch lights and everything to put individual lights, but then for the headlight they don't do that. So interesting. All right, now for our tear down on our Scaletrains unit here. Now Scaletrains has been pretty good about not overcomplicating things as far as getting your shell off, at least in my past experience with them. Let's see if they kept that trend going, because I really liked that about their stuff. So it's pretty easy to get it apart. You're not looking for mystery screws like on that Athearn model we just took a look at there. Now, I don't generally have to take apart my Scaletrains models for like maintenance or anything, but generally when I do a build on one, I like to add even more lights than what they come with from the factory, because from the factory they come with a pretty good lighting setup. They like to add like step lights and all the oddball lights that are generally, I believe, cost prohibitive to do from the factory. So now for the fun part, getting the coupler box out up here in the front. That's always a chore. These prototypical plows they put on these units are always kind of a pain in the rear end, trying to fish a coupler out of, or a coupler box, because of how they line up. They fit so perfect like that, and it can be a bit of a chore. But all right, it looks like this is going to pop off here. Now for the fun part of trying to work it loose. Yeah, we got it there. Let's see what we got under the hood here. All right, another clean lift-off deal here. All right. So, just in basic looking here, as you guys can tell, Scaletrains does pretty much all of the lighting is piped with the exception of the ditch lights. For the ditch lights, if I get that catch there, you guys can see those little contact pads down in there. Those will contact and the ditch lights and then be mounted directly in the front there. There's also, it looks like there's some light tubing for our headlight and for our number boards. Looks like I got our whole cab detail in there. In the back, we've got plenty of room in here. And of course, our ground lights are mounted directly to the side of the frame there. And then one of my personal favorites here are standard issue Scaletrains decoder board here, with the keep alives are hidden in the bottom of it. You can't see them, but they're right underneath there. And one thing I really enjoy about Scaletrains is that they use these boards on everything. They're the same board in every single rivet counter model, and I like that because once you understand what functions what on this little board, you can add more lighting to it very easily. Now, mine, of course, is a DCC and sound equipped model, and if we look down in between here, we could see our 2 cube speakers mounted right in the weight back there, and that's how they get that see-through back end, is by putting the speakers right in here, as opposed to how Athearn does it up on the top. Now, that can make for a much more cumbersome install if you're doing a DC to DCC model, where you're starting off with a DCC ready one and you want to add sound to it. For you like Tsunami guys that would want to add a Tsunami board to this, you would have to take this entire weight from front to back off to get in there. I believe it's all one big piece to get in there to put speakers in, but either way, a pretty nice looking deal here. There's our side lights there, but overall I'm pretty much about what I expected. Let me go ahead and get the shell back on this, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts on these 2 units. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my final thoughts on these units. And overall, when all's said and done, I think they're both actually really nice models. It really, that's the best way to put it, is it comes down to whether you're a Tsunami sound guy or an ESU guy. Because if you're a Tsunami sound guy, I'd say get the Athearn Genesis. If you're an ESU guy, I'd say just get the Scaletrains one, because as you guys kind of saw from the video, there's some very minor differences between the two as far as the paint color and see-through grills, etc., and maybe some of the crispness of some of the lines and things. But when all's said and done, honestly, these are extremely close together models as far as quality and what they look like. Now, when I did the unboxing and stuff, I did mention that there was 2 steps that were missing from my rivet counter Scaletrains model, and I actually found the other one stuck to the back side of a wheel, so I have both of them now. So that wasn't something where it was misplaced from the factory or anything. It probably fell off in transport, because and as you guys know, these parts are so small, and they have to put a very small amount of glue on them to get them to stick, so you don't end up with excess glue. And I'm not really going to hold that against Scaletrains per se. That's not something that I feel is necessary when it comes to that. Just the same as when we look at our handrails here on our Athearn Genesis model, we see they're a little bit wavy and a little bit wonky, but they're also extremely thin. And as you guys can tell, like, these handrail stanchions are kind of hard to get straight, and you know, just little things like that just from handling that you can mess up. I can't really fault either manufacturer for those little things like that. So overall, I think they're both excellent models, and if push came to shove and I was going to buy more, I would probably buy more of the Scaletrains ones, just solely because of the ESU sound. It'd be able to add ESU sound and a keep alive to the Genesis model. I'm going to end up spending more than what I'd spend on the Scaletrains model. So it's kind of a catch-22. But at the same time, the Athearn models, I think, are very nice. And with the keep alive and the ESU sound, would sound and be just as awesome as the Scaletrains one. So really, it comes down to which camp you're a bigger fan of. If you're a Scaletrains guy, pick up the Scaletrains one. If you're an Athearn guy, pick up the Athearn one. I can't really say for sure which is better, but as always, guys, I want to thank everybody for watching and listening to me babble and look at 2 of the exact same model, essentially. But I figured it would kind of, you know, just help out, just to kind of show these side by side, because everybody that's doing reviews is just doing a review of the Scaletrains or just doing a review of the Athearn Genesis. They're not actually showing them side by side to actually see them. So I figured we'll do something different with it. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.